moving forward. Oh, anyways,
You're good.
I'm fine. Hello, yate, share Cody Cly and share. What I just said was hello Navajo. My name is Cody Cly. My first two clans are the Mountain Cove clan, born for the Water Flows Together clan. I am Navajo or Diné, and surprisingly, we are also on my. Well, they're more distant relatives, but the Diné people here in Alaska are also Diné as well as us in New Mexico, which is amazing. I really love the place. But as well, today I'm here to talk to you about Virgin communities, Indigenous and non-Indigenous. So I'm currently a PhD. Well, at the time I was a grad student. Now I'm a PhD candidate at University of Texas San Antonio. And so I just wanted to highlight things that we did, not just at UTSA, but I've done to do a lot of outreach. And so I didn't realize how much a lot of work this was, but it was fun. I got to do a lot of outreach. So yeah, so for the 2023 annular eclipse, I was actually doing more cultural outreach in the Valley of the Gods in Utah. Got to work with Nancy Maryboy and a lot of people. And then in 2024, we were actually at I was actually in San Antonio with some of my friends at a resort, listening to jazz and watching the eclipse and just watching the weather because it was clouded out like Deb. We had an experience with Deb, like Deb. But yeah, the picture you see, I don't. The rest of my presentation is just all gonna be pictures because I don't really like writing. But as well, I just wanted to highlight everything, not just I was involved with, but just like UTSA. And so the picture right here is just a picture of a lot of us in the group who do outreach. This happened to be, it's not representative of everyone who's doing outreach, but it's just a small sample set. But this was us at the Johnson Air Force, Johnson, J,
Joint Base San Antonio.
yeah, Joint Base San Antonio Air Show. So basically, just an air show that happens every year or every other year. And so we actually, leading up to the eclipse, we actually got to table at two of these air shows, which was amazing. We got to see a lot of planes, a lot of fun, talk to the community as well. We just were involved with various STEM nights throughout the time leading up to the eclipses. But as well, we also, did a lot of media stuff. Our Dr. Shepard from UTSA, who's also here somewhere, wrote a commentary about this total solar eclipse. But as well, quite a few of us were also involved with interviews, just giving newspaper articles as well as podcasts. So yeah. And then also here's a collage of things we also did as well. My first experience with the Eclipse Task Force was actually, I think, virtual. And then my first in-person one was in Rochester with you all, which was amazing. That was when I was young. I was more introverted. And ever since meeting you all, you pulled me out of my shell more and got me doing more things. But yeah, and so we have the top right corner, right, my side, I guess. Your side? Wait, your side. You're right. But yeah, we did some workshops where one of our students, Tiffany, was able to put on, I think, light sound, I believe. I held a light sound workshop at UTSA. And so we also got interviewed for the news, and we got to talk about soundscapes. And as well, during we did work with SAC and some various other places during the annular. And then also, going back to the Air Force shows, we got to see some pretty cool planes as well, not just in San Antonio, but we got to travel around San Antonio and South Texas. For me, as an Indigenous person, I like to learn about things, especially touchy subjects like colonialism. And so what you see right here on the far right is a picture from one of the missions in San Antonio. It's called Mission Concepcion in San Antonio. That's actually a depiction of an eclipse, I believe, that happened somewhere in Texas back in the day. And so the amazing part about that cathedral or mission is that during certain times of the year, there are a few windows that line up where the sun will shine in, but on the sides of it, you actually have, I believe, Venus and Jupiter on those sides of the sun. And so when the Indigenous people built the missions at in San Antonio, they built it with a purpose. Like a lot of things they did, they could anticipate. So they built five separate cathedrals, the river running through, just representative certain of things of the tribe as well. When you look at the architecture of some of these missions, the tribes there did build in their creation stories and some of their just teaching and philosophies into these buildings, just like the pueblos out in New Mexico. They have these really beautifully adorned cathedrals in their villages, and they work their creation stories into everything. And so yeah, that's something beautiful I got to learn more about in San Antonio. But as well, we also went to the Bracken Bat Cave with soundscapes. So basically just one of the projects where we're just recording sound of nature and everything. We also got the experience to actually watch the bats emerge. So that was the fun part. As well, we have various events we did, such as STEM nights, but as well, we On the far right picture on the top, that's actually Sean and I. We were doing outreach and giving demonstrations to people out in Eagle Pass. So this was at Sul Ross University, and so we talked about how there was discussion about how there's like a STEM desert in southern Texas. So we were working with Jennifer Miller out of Sul Ross to help address that. By helping deliver, just recording devices for soundscapes, light sound, as well as just delivering Eclipse materials as well, and just helping distribute Eclipse classes. Yeah, and for me, I have the top left corner picture, which for me is a very sentimental sort of thing because I've always heard of Nancy Maryboy. I've never met her until I actually got to work in the Valley of the Gods with her and David Begay. And for me, these eclipses were just like not just something that I was doing as a grad student, like, hey, here, do some outreach. But for me, it's more cultural too, because I am Navajo, I am Indigenous, and the mantra is everyone should see eclipses, but sometimes we don't watch eclipses because of cultural values and boundaries. And so my messaging upon that was like, my messaging behind this eclipse was that every tribe in America is different depending on where you are. We all have different points of view. Some will view the eclipse as something sacred. We all view the eclipse as something sacred. Some of us will elect not to view it, while others elect to view it. And so this picture of me, David, and Nancy for me is I hold close because it's just like I started learning a lot more about cultural traditions, and ever since I started talking about the eclipses, I started delving more into Navajo astronomy and just taking a look at the night sky through Indigenous perspectives or Indigenous eyes, and just learning more about not just my culture, but other Indigenous cultures across the U.S., and just learning about like what they believe and how they view the night sky, and how, how we've been doing, like how Indigenous people have been like practicing sciences, and how for us it's more, not just for us, but how, I'm trying to find words, but it's something like when some tribes do sciences, or when we think about sciences, it's more ritualistic. So it's like, it's everything that has to do with mind, body, and spirit. So it's like one thing affects the other, just like how we pass messages on from eclipses for the Diné people, which is more like, it's a time of, reverence. Everything's being like a death and rebirth cycle. And so, just taking that time to spend with family, plan for the future, and reflect on what's happened, and just plan for the future. And so, yeah, I had like 2 eclipses to actually reflect and plan for the future. And everything that's happened since then has been amazing. So, yeah.
Thank you.